My sister stood up in the middle of our grandmother's will, reading, put both hands on her pregnant belly, and announced, "I'm carrying triplets, so Michael only gets 10%. She said it like it was already decided, like motherhood rewrote legal documents, like volume equaled authority. What she didn't know was that Grandma had already rewritten something too, and I had it on my phone. My sister didn't wait for the lawyer to finish reading the will. She stood up halfway through the second paragraph, placed both hands on her stomach like she was unveiling royalty, and said, "Before we go any further, I think we all know what's fair." The room froze. We were sitting in Mr. Henderson's office, beige walls, soft lighting, the kind of place where bad news is delivered in neutral tones. My grandmother's framed photo sat on the side table beside a box of tissues that no one had touched yet. Ashley looked radiant. That's the word people always use for pregnant women. Radiant. She was 5 months along, visibly showing, and had mastered the posture. Chin slightly lifted, palm resting protectively over her stomach. The image of fragile strength. Triplets. She had made sure everyone knew. "Considering I'm pregnant with triplets," she continued, glancing around the room like she was accepting applause, "it's only logical that the majority of Grandma's estate supports the next generation." Logical. That word always sounds clean when you're about to say something selfish. Mr. Henderson blinked slowly. "I assure you," he said politely, "the document outlines—" "I just want to say this now," Ashley interrupted. "I think it would be generous if Michael accepted 10%. She turned toward me with a soft, practiced smile. "You don't have kids," she added gently. "I do." There it was. The reframe. Not greed, motherhood, not entitlement, sacrifice. I didn't respond immediately. I've learned something about Ashley over the years. She thrives on reaction. She feeds on pushback. Silence unsettles her. Our parents shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. My mother cleared her throat like she wanted to say something, then didn't. My father stared at his folded hands. No one corrected her. No one told her to sit down. That's how it's always been. Ashley enters a room like it belongs to her. The rest of us adjust. Mr. Henderson glanced at me. "Mr. Carter?" he said carefully. "I think," I replied evenly, "we should let you finish reading." Ashley's smile tightened. "I'm not trying to be difficult," she said quickly. "I just want transparency." Transparency. She said it like she'd been rehearsing it in a mirror. "You don't want this to become awkward later," she added, "especially with babies involved." Babies involved, like a warning. I watched her. Ashley has always known how to weaponize optics. When we were kids, she'd cry before I did. When we were teenagers, she'd tell our parents her version of a story before I even walked in the door. And when Grandma started declining, Ashley suddenly became very interested in legacy. It hadn't always been like this, at least not visibly. When we were younger, Grandma adored Ashley. She was charismatic, loud, entertaining. I was the quiet one, the practical one, the one who fixed the Wi-Fi and balanced the checkbook and stayed late to stack chairs after Thanksgiving. Ashley floated. I anchored. Grandma used to laugh about it. "She's my fireworks," she'd say about Ashley, "and you're my foundation." At the time, I didn't know which one was better. Now I do. 3 years ago, when Grandma's arthritis worsened and she stopped driving, I was the one who took over her appointments. I set up her medication schedules. I handled the bank statements. I sat with her while she learned how to use online banking because she didn't trust automatic withdrawals. Ashley visited too, but her visits were curated. Photos on Facebook, captions about 3 generations of strong women. She'd stay an hour, leave before the insurance paperwork came out. Grandma noticed. She never said it outright, but she noticed. The triplets changed everything. When Ashley announced she was pregnant, the family reacted like she'd secured a national achievement. Then came the ultrasound update. 3 heartbeats, she posted with crying emojis and a hospital wristband selfie. The attention multiplied. So did the conversations about cost. So many diapers. 3 cribs. We'll need a bigger place. Daycare for 3 is insane. It was always framed as stress, never as leverage. Until today. Ashley shifted in her chair, adjusting the fabric of her dress. "I'm not saying Michael gets nothing," she said sweetly. 10% is generous. Generous. She was negotiating my inheritance like it was hers to distribute. I folded my hands in my lap. "You're assuming something," I said quietly. She tilted her head. "That Grandma didn't account for great-grandchildren?" "That Grandma's estate was structured around your pregnancy," I replied. Ashley laughed softly. "Michael," she said, lowering her voice slightly like she was being patient with a child. "Grandma would have wanted to support her legacy." There it was again. Legacy. the word she'd started using around the same time she began asking about asset valuations. I remembered one conversation in particular, about 6 months before Grandma passed. Ashley had come over while I was reviewing a utility statement. She stood in the kitchen, rubbing her stomach. "Have you talked to Grandma about the house?" she asked casually. "What about it?" "Well," she said, "it makes more sense for me to have it. Space, yard, kids." "You don't live in this city," I reminded her. "I would move," she replied instantly. "After she dies?" I asked. She didn't flinch. "You're so dramatic." I hadn't told Grandma about that conversation. I didn't need to. Grandma saw more than people thought. Back in the lawyer's office, Ashley leaned forward. "I just don't want resentment later," she said. "It's better to handle expectations now." Mr. Henderson cleared his throat. "If I may," he said carefully, "Mrs. Carter updated her trust 3 months before her passing." Ashley blinked. "Updated?" she repeated. "Yes." Her smile faltered for half a second. Then she recovered. "Well, of course," she said quickly. She knew about the babies. The babies. Not my sister's children. The babies. I watched her carefully. Ashley's confidence was built on assumption. Assumption that Grandma adored her more. Assumption that pregnancy guaranteed priority. Assumption that I would step aside quietly. "Please continue," I said to the lawyer. Ashley shot me a look. The kind that says you're ruining the script. Mr. Henderson adjusted his glasses and resumed reading. The air in the room felt heavier now. Ashley sat straighter, one hand still on her stomach, like she was shielding her advantage. Our parents looked tense. My mother finally spoke. "Ashley," she whispered, "maybe let him finish." Ashley gave her a tight smile. "I'm just being practical." Practical. I almost smiled at that. Practical is not the word anyone has ever used to describe my sister. Mr. Henderson continued. "As per the amended trust." Ashley's fingers tightened slightly, and for the first time that afternoon, I saw something flicker in her expression. Uncertainty. Ashley shifted in her seat. Not dramatically. Just enough. A small repositioning of confidence. "As per the amended trust," Mr. Henderson continued, voice steady, "the estate shall be divided according to the updated allocation schedule outlined in Section 4. Ashley exhaled through her nose. "Right," she said lightly. "That's what we're discussing." "We are not," the lawyer replied gently. "We are reading." Silence settled again. He turned a page. Originally, the estate was to be divided equally between Michael Carter and Ashley Carter. Ashley nodded once, as if that was expected. "However," Mr. Henderson continued, 3 months prior to her passing, Mrs. Carter made modifications. Ashley's hand slowly slid off her stomach. "What modifications?" she asked. Her tone had changed. Still controlled, but thinner. Mr. Henderson read directly from the document. "In the event that any beneficiary attempts to exert pressure, manipulate distribution, or leverage anticipated future dependents for financial advantage, their share shall be restructured into a managed trust with limited discretionary access." The room didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. Ashley stared at him. "What?" she said. He didn't look up. "Furthermore," he continued, "in such event, the alternate beneficiary shall retain full discretionary access to their original share." Ashley turned toward me slowly. "This is ridiculous." I didn't respond. My father shifted in his seat. "What does that mean exactly?" he asked. Mr. Henderson folded his hands. "It means," he said calmly, "that if one beneficiary attempts to influence distribution on the basis of pregnancy, lineage, or perceived moral obligation, their inheritance converts into a structured trust. Funds are released in controlled installments. The other beneficiary retains unrestricted distribution." Ashley blinked rapidly. "That's not what she meant." "It is what she signed," Mr. Henderson replied. Ashley's composure cracked slightly. "She wouldn't punish me for having children." "It does not mention children as punishment," he said evenly. "It references coercion." Ashley stood up. "I didn't coerce anyone." "You suggested your brother accept 10%, my mother said quietly. Ashley spun toward her. "That was fairness." "That was negotiation," I said calmly. She looked at me like I'd betrayed her. "You're enjoying this." "No," I replied. "I'm observing." Mr. Henderson adjusted the papers again. "There is also an additional note from Mrs. Carter," he said. Ashley froze. He read, "Character determines legacy, not multiplication." No one spoke. Ashley's face flushed. "She didn't write that," she said immediately. "She did," the lawyer replied. I felt something tighten in my chest. I remembered that conversation. One evening, months ago. Grandma had been sitting in her armchair, hands folded over a blanket. Ashley had just left after another conversation about making sure the estate reflects the future. Grandma looked at me and said quietly, "People think more babies mean more worth." She smiled faintly. "Worth doesn't duplicate like that." I hadn't known she'd acted on it. Ashley turned toward me again. "You told her I was pressuring you." "I didn't have to," I said. Her breathing quickened. "This is because you're jealous." That almost made me laugh. Of what? Of the attention. Of the family growing. "This isn't about attention." "It's always been about attention," she snapped. "You were always the quiet martyr." There it was. The rewrite. In Ashley's world, responsibility is resentment. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat again. "To clarify," he said, "the updated trust leaves Michael's share intact. Ashley's share converts to structured disbursements over 20 years. No lump sum." Ashley stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. 20 years? She whispered. "Yes." "That's insane." "It was Mrs. Carter's directive." Ashley's voice rose. "She wouldn't do that to me." "She did," I said softly. "She turned on me fully now." "You manipulated her." "No." "You were always around. You had access." "I paid her bills," I replied. "I didn't rewrite her values." Ashley's composure finally cracked completely. "This is because I'm pregnant," she said, tears forming now. "You're punishing me for being a mother." "No one is punishing you," Mr. Henderson said firmly. "The clause activates only upon attempted coercion." She laughed sharply through her tears. "So because I said something today, I lose control?" "Yes," he said plainly. The simplicity of it stunned her. She had expected negotiation. She had expected guilt. She had expected me to fold publicly and look magnanimous. Instead, she had triggered the exact clause Grandma had designed to prevent this moment. Ashley's voice dropped to a whisper. "You knew." I met her eyes. "I suspected." She stared at me, searching for smugness. There wasn't any, just calm, because this wasn't revenge. Ashley didn't cry. That would have been easier. Crying would have made her look fragile, sympathetic, wronged. Instead, she went cold. "I want to see the amendment," she said flatly. Mr. Henderson slid a copy across the table. Her fingers trembled as she grabbed it. She scanned the page quickly at first, like she was searching for a loophole. Then slower. Then her breathing changed. "You added this," she said without looking up. "You pushed her." "I didn't," I replied. "You were always around," she said, eyes snapping up to meet mine. "You had access to her accounts, to her appointments, to her time. And you had access to her phone camera," I said calmly, "and her Facebook." Her jaw clenched. "You're twisting this." "No," I said quietly. "You tried to." That hit harder than I expected, because she had tried to, not just today, for months. I remembered one particular afternoon at Grandma's kitchen table. Ashley had been talking about the babies. 3 car seats, she'd said dramatically. 3 college funds, 3 weddings. Grandma had smiled politely. "That's a lot of planning." Ashley leaned forward. "You know, if things were structured differently, it would make everything easier. It's not like Michael needs the same amount." I had been in the next room. I heard it. Grandma didn't respond immediately. She just stirred her tea and said, "Everything is structured exactly how I want it." At the time, I thought that ended it. I didn't realize it triggered something else. Back in the lawyer's office, Ashley slammed the papers down. "This clause is vague," she said sharply. "What qualifies as coercion?" "Attempting to alter distribution by invoking pregnancy or emotional leverage," Mr. Henderson replied. She laughed once, hollow. "So because I mentioned my children, you proposed reducing your brother's share to 10% before the reading concluded," he said evenly. "That was a suggestion." "It was an attempt to influence." She stood up again. "This is insane. She wouldn't do this to me." "She did," my father said quietly. Ashley turned toward him slowly. "You're on his side?" "I'm on your mother's side," he replied. Something in her expression fractured. Not rage, recognition. This wasn't a debate she could win with volume. She looked at me again. "You knew this would happen." "No," I said honestly. "I didn't know what she wrote." "But you knew she'd favor you." "I knew she valued consistency." Her eyes narrowed. "You're implying I wasn't consistent." "I'm not implying anything." That's when she snapped. "I was pregnant," she yelled. "Do you know what that does to your body, to your mind? I was exhausted. I couldn't sit around balancing checkbooks." "No one asked you to," I replied. "You think because you drove her to appointments you deserve more?" "I never asked for more." "And yet you get it," she shot back. There it was. Not anger at the clause, anger at losing advantage. Mr. Henderson interjected. "To clarify, the distribution remains equal in value. The difference is access. Ashley stared at him. Access is everything. Yes, he said calmly. That is the point. Her breath hitched. So he gets full control and I get babysat? You get structured support, he corrected. For 20 years? She whispered. Yes. She looked down at her stomach again. This was supposed to secure my kids. That's exactly what it does, I said. She looked up sharply. What? It secures them from you spending it impulsively. The words hung heavier than I intended, but they were true. Ashley's eyes filled now, not from vulnerability, from fury. You think I'm irresponsible. I think you confuse urgency with entitlement. She stepped closer to me. You've always resented me. No, I said. I've always cleaned up after you. That one silenced her. The room felt tight, the kind of tight where even breathing sounds loud. My mother finally spoke. Ashley, maybe Grandma wanted you to slow down. Ashley turned toward her like she'd been betrayed. You think I'm reckless? I think, my mother said carefully, that you move fast. Ashley laughed bitterly. So now I'm the villain. No, I said quietly. You just aren't the exception. She stared at me. You're enjoying this. I'm relieved, I answered. That surprised even me. Relieved. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't have to argue my case. I didn't have to justify being steady. Grandma had done it for me. Ashley sank back into her chair. Her voice dropped. You knew I needed this. You needed security, I said. Not dominance. She shook her head slowly. You stole this from me. I didn't take anything, I replied. You triggered a clause. The lawyer folded his hands. The amendment stands. There is no contestable ambiguity. Ashley's shoulders slumped. Her confidence had evaporated, not because she lost money, because she lost narrative. For years she had framed herself as the center, the future, the emotional core. Today that framing collapsed in a beige office under fluorescent lights. She looked smaller, not physically, strategically. And for the first time in our lives, she didn't control the room. It was gravity. And gravity doesn't argue, it just pulls. She looked at our parents. Are you just going to sit there? My mother looked conflicted. My father looked tired. This was your grandmother's decision, he said quietly. Ashley's face hardened. She was confused. She was not, Mr. Henderson replied immediately. She signed in my presence and 2 witnesses. She was lucid. Ashley shook her head. She would have wanted to support the babies. She structured the trust to ensure they are supported, he clarified. Through controlled distribution. That word again. Controlled. Ashley hates control unless she's holding it. She sank back into her chair. Her hand returned to her stomach instinctively. This is humiliating, she muttered. No, I said calmly. Humiliating would have been getting 10% because you asked. Her eyes flashed. You think you're better than me? No, I replied. I think Grandma saw through both of us. The room fell silent again. For the first time in her life, Ashley didn't have the loudest voice in the room. She had the smallest share. Ashley didn't speak for a long time after that. The room felt oddly hollow, like something loud had been turned off mid-song. Mr. Henderson carefully stacked the documents back into a neat pile. Both beneficiaries will receive copies, he said in a measured tone. If there are further legal questions, we can schedule a follow-up. No one answered. Ashley finally stood. Not dramatically this time. No performance. No hand cradling her stomach for emphasis. Just a woman who had walked into a room expecting applause and walked out audited. She gathered her purse without looking at me. This isn't over, she said quietly. It wasn't a threat. It was reflex. The kind you say when you don't know what else to hold on to. I didn't respond, because in a way, it was over. The power dynamic had shifted permanently. Our parents stood too. My mother hesitated, then reached toward Ashley. Ash! Ashley pulled away. You all knew, she muttered. We didn't, my father said softly, but your grandmother did. That was the part she couldn't process. Not that I'd won, but that Grandma had anticipated her. We walked out of the office together, but not together. Ashley ahead of us, fast, controlled, like she was trying to outrun the embarrassment. In the parking lot, she turned toward me one last time. You think this proves something, she said. It proves Grandma paid attention, I replied. Her eyes flicked toward my car. You've always wanted to be the responsible one. I've always been the responsible one, she scoffed. Enjoy your control. I shook my head slightly. This isn't control. What is it then? Accountability. That word hit harder than any insult. She stared at me like I'd spoken another language. because in her world, accountability had always been negotiable. Then she left. No dramatic exit, no final speech. Just tires rolling across asphalt. I stood there for a minute longer than I needed to, not savoring it, just absorbing it. There's something strange about watching a lifetime dynamic collapse in a single afternoon. It's not explosive. It's quiet, like scaffolding being removed from a building you thought needed it. My father came to stand beside me. "She'll calm down," he said. "Maybe," I replied. "Do you feel good about this?" I thought about that carefully. "I feel steady," I said. That was the truth. Not triumphant, not vindicated. Steady. In the weeks that followed, Ashley tried a few angles. She called once, voice tight but controlled. "I talked to another lawyer," she said. "And?" I asked. "He said it's airtight." "Yes." Silence. "She wouldn't have done this if you hadn't been there all the time." I didn't argue, because maybe my presence mattered, but not in the way she thought. "I was there," I said calmly. "You weren't." That wasn't cruelty. It was record. She hung up shortly after. Family gatherings shifted after that. Ashley still came. She still talked, but the edge was gone. She didn't negotiate inheritance in the middle of dinners anymore. She didn't reference percentages. She didn't frame her pregnancy as a crown. The triplets were born healthy. And to her credit, motherhood changed her in ways I didn't expect. Not instantly, but gradually. Structured payouts don't allow impulsive splurges. They allow planning, mortgage payments, medical coverage, college funds, the very things she claimed to want. She never apologized for the will reading. I never demanded one. Because the humiliation wasn't my goal. The correction was. One evening, months later, she came over alone. No performance. No audience. She sat at my kitchen table quietly. "I thought having more meant I deserved more," she said. I didn't answer right away. "I thought that's how families worked." "Families work on trust," I said gently. She nodded once. I miscalculated. "Yes." There was no sarcasm in it, just acknowledgement. She left shortly after, and that was that. Not a fairy tale reconciliation, not a dramatic sisterly hug, just a recalibration. Grandma used to say something when we were kids. "When the loudest person stops talking, listen carefully." At the will reading, Ashley was the loudest person in the room. By the end of it, she wasn't. Triplets didn't guarantee leverage. Pregnancy didn't rewrite paperwork. And legacy wasn't measured by how many people shared your bloodline. It was measured by how you treated the people already sitting at the table. Ashley thought multiplication meant advantage. Grandma believed character mattered more than numbers. And for once in our family, the quiet one didn't have to fight to be heard. Because the paperwork spoke first. She tried to reduce me to 10%. Grandma reduced her to structured access. She walked into that office expecting applause. She walked out on installments. And for once, multiplication didn't mean advantage.